Chandra from the NR Media, NR Hour Sports Show. We are live on iHeartRadio, Spotify, on all the podcast platforms. And fans, please tune in. Everybody knows about your speaker app on my phone, where you can put your questions in the app as usual. But before we introduce today's guest, man, what this week it was start of the NFL playoffs wild card round, and what a whole bunch of games, crazy games, and intense games, which we'll get to on today's show. But today's guest, we have Nolan Carroll. He's a former NFL cornerback. He played for Maryland. He played for the Miami Dolphins, Eagles, and the Dallas Cowboys. What a great career. What a great, in my opinion, underrated defensive back to play in the NFL. And he's a great, inspiring person in the NFL and outside of the NFL. Outside of his career, he's doing big things off the field, and him and his brother built the college program also, which we'll get to, and he's recruiting players as we speak, and we'll get to all of that. Also, his career and this year's NFL season and the playoffs that's going on, and the teams. And by the way, one of his former team is playing tonight, Eagles and Buccaneers. So we'll get to all of that. Nolan, I just want to say thank you for joining the show. It's truly an honor, and I can't wait to learn more about your story, because not only you were a great football player, but now you're like a motivational speaker on Instagram. You put videos of great advice, and but I just want to welcome you to our show. How are you and your family doing? And Happy New Year.
Yeah, happy New Year to you as well. Appreciate you for allowing me to be on the show and man, ready to get started.
All right, let's do it. So before we get to your career, tell our fans what was your reactions so far for in the playoffs this year. Obviously, any like you just said, anything can happen in the playoffs. But talk about your reaction to this, and have you been in part of any games in your career that happened? What happened yesterday?
Yeah, it's pretty wild. That's why I call it Wild Card Weekend. Just seeing the matchups and understanding from a perspective of, anybody can get beat at any single time in the playoffs. And it's just funny, just starting with, that first game, Houston and Cleveland. A lot of people didn't give CJ Stroud and D'Amico Ryan's credit. D'Amico Ryan's a former teammate of mine. So, it's good to see him come out there and set the precedence for the standard of Houston and getting back to winning football. But I mean, CJ Stroud, man, he was on fire, man. I don't think that's ever been seen by a rookie quarterback like that. And for him to come out and execute that way, and also too on the defensive side of the ball, a lot of people don't know this, but Corey Underlin, who's my defensive back coach at Philly, is also in Houston.
Oh
And
wow.
it's just funny because you can see similarities of the defense. It was the same defense we had in Philly, and you can see those guys just attacking and getting turnovers, and the D line getting after it, and it's just great success. So those guys, I feel like I'm still close to them because I shared a locker room with them. So it's cool to see that success. The other game, unfortunately, the Dolphins couldn't beat the Chiefs, but I just think it came down to execution. Them not having the guys that they needed to have on defense really hurt them a lot. Xavier Howard, Chubb, um, Phillips. I mean, if you look at it just on their D line, and Van Kinkel, there were three guys that were out that had 25 sacks, in the season. So when you miss production like that, and you're playing against Patrick Mahomes and you're not getting after him the way that I know the Dolphins were during the season, it's hard to stop a team that's been poised in the playoffs and Super Bowl runs for many years. And it's just unfortunate, but I think if you look at the Dolphins' success, they did a very good job this year. For the unfortunate situation that happened was just injuries, and that's part of the game. It just sucks that it happened so late in the season, getting ready to play
Yeah.
a caliber team like that. But the game that surprised me the most had to have been Dallas and Green Bay. I think everybody counted out Green Bay because of how young they were, just the young talent they had on offense. I think those guys as a receiving core and tight ends, they were maybe the max 2 years of playing experience. And then Jordan Love comes in just being a young guy. He just lit it up. I think it was more so the execution of the game plan and Dallas underestimating the team that they were going against. And just me, I understand the media in Dallas, and I understand the people around in Dallas. I think it was a game they thought they could just show up and win. I think it was a game that they thought if we just do enough as a team, they'll lay down. But this young team was very resilient, and I mean, you blinked and it was already 27-7. You're just like, wait a minute, and Dallas just couldn't recover. That was a shocker. The game that I enjoyed was last night. Obviously, was
Mm. The
Detroit and the Rams. I think it just came down to the wire. Just seeing what happened, and Dan Campbell. He was my coach for 3 years when I was in Miami. He was the offensive line coach, and
mm,
seeing him, I feel happy for him because he's a guy that he's been that way ever since I was a rookie, and to see him get the chance to turn a program around, an organization that's been yearning for it for many years, to finally get that first playoff win in a long time since I believe 1991. It shows a testament to his character and what he's been able to do for that program. So it was great to see the growth and development of not only just him but Jared Goff as well. People kind of wrote him off, when he got traded from the Rams to the Lions. They kind of thought, oh, well, this is it for him, but he showed he was resilient, and that team rallies around him. So, looking forward to these two games that are coming up with the
mm.
Steelers and Bills, and also my team, the Eagles and Buccaneers. So it'll be good this week. Or I mean, this Monday.
And the Lions, man, first playoff win after 32 years, which is crazy to think about. And good, they deserve it. The fans deserve it, and they've been waiting for that for a long time. And that's the most inspiring story right there with the Detroit Lions. Oh,
Yeah, it
mhm.
definitely was. It was cool to see how, not only that, but winning their division and then now winning the first round of the playoffs and then having another home game next week, depending on who wins this Buccaneers and Philly game. It'd just be good to see how they're able to hopefully go on a run and keep surprising people. Everybody loves an underdog story, and I think they're the true underdogs just because of their attitude and grit of the head coach.
Yep. So we are live with former Maryland and NFL cornerback Nolan Carroll. Fans, put your questions in the speak wrap. We'll answer some of your questions. And Nolan, tell our fans, how did you get into football? Because your family has a military background. Your mother was in the Navy, your father was in the Air Force, and just talk about that. Uh, Looking up to your parents and for them being in the military. And how did you and your brother get into football?
Yeah, well, it was one of those things. My dad used to put on games back in the day when I was a little kid, and I was a soccer player at first. Not too many people know that.
Oh,
I was a soccer player. I started when I was 5, and my mom just would never let me play football. She was scared of the contact. She didn't want me to get hurt. But I think soccer is way more physical than football. I think football is intense. It's brutal, but at the end of the day, soccer, just with the longevity, it's a little bit tougher. And a lot of people used to pick on me about not being tough because I played soccer, da da da. And then, kind of fast forward into high school, my buddies, they used to make fun of me because I wasn't playing football. At least my freshman year in high school. And then finally, I said, forget that. So I decided to try out for our football team. I ended up making it, and what was interesting, which also is another unique story. My head coach, he knew that something was off because I only was out in tryouts for one day, and he saw that I wasn't there the following day, so he ends up coming to my house. He really told my mom the whole story of how your son could play football and end up having a scholarship and paying for college. And my parents' education was big, and having structure and discipline, that's also big in our household, because my mom, dad, they accomplished many things. My mom, she was in the Navy for 20 years, retired as a lieutenant commander. My dad was in the Air Force for 25 years, retired as a senior master sergeant. So it was always discipline in the house. Discipline and hard work was the things that we knew, and that's what we stood by. And once my mom saw that I was dedicated to this and I really wanted to do it, and my biggest goal was not to get to the NFL. My biggest goal was understanding that my parents didn't have to pay for college, and I knew that if it was going to be something that I liked doing, which was playing football, why not be all in and give it my all, and hopefully get a scholarship, which I ended up doing. I got multiple scholarship offers, and I chose University of Maryland at the end of the day, and I didn't look back since. It's been a fun ride ever since that decision, and here I am. I got to play in the NFL. One of the things that, like I said, I never expected to do, but always just imagined it when I saw it on the television. I had an interest with it, and always thought about maybe, what if I could get there if I decided to really dedicate myself. And as the years went on and it finally became a reality, that's when the light bulb clicked, and like I said, never looked back. And I think I had a pretty good career in the NFL.
Hey, you did have a great career. Like I said, I watched you play before with the Cowboys and the Eagles, and especially in the NFC East. They had some pretty good battles, obviously in the NFC East. And you like I said, you had an underrated career. If no one knows about Nolan Carroll, you brought energy on the field and on every game, and you brought the winning mentality on defense. And but we do have our first fan question here. One of our fans wants to know who are some of the players that you looked up to throughout your career.
Yeah, the one player that I looked up to, and I was fortunate enough to play with him and get coached by him, was Al Harris.
Oh,
And buddy, that'll tell you, Al Harris, when I was in college, I used to have a poster of him, a cutout poster on my
nice.
wall. And I virtually emulated him. I would ask my defensive back coach, my defensive coordinator, get film of Al Harris because I want to see exactly what he is doing and how he's perfecting his game and how physical he was. And I had the dreads, I had the tats, so like I was him, and my rookie year in Miami, it was such a shock because yeah, I did not expect that. He got released by the Green Bay Packers after I think 12 years, and next thing you know, he gets picked up week 12 with us, and I'm playing 3 games with this guy. And
Wow.
when I tell you, I tried to look at every single thing he was doing. It was, it was a surreal moment, just to be able to share a locker room with a guy that, in my opinion, should be a Hall of Famer, a guy that he's the reason why Green Bay was the way they were, and just to be around him and see how I used to get in the building early. I used to get in at 6 o'clock. Well, when I got in at 6, he was there at 5:45, 5:30, getting out of the hot tub. So when I saw that, and I saw the habits that he was doing, the things technique wise, early before practice, late after practice, always critiquing just little things and steps and press and how to understand what the offense is doing. I soaked all that in my first year, and it was unfortunate that he got hurt towards the end of the year, but no, I was appreciative of the time that I got to play with him, and it's funny because then 2 years later, he's my defensive back coach, and now I'm really like, man, this is crazy that this guy that I grew up watching in college is the same guy that I got to play with, and now he's coaching me, and you see what a great job he's doing with the Dallas Cowboys with Trevon Diggs, Bland, Stephon Gilmore. All those guys are being productive because the mentality Al has is fearless. He don't care if the guy runs a 4.3 or a 4.9. As long as you put your hands on him to slow him down and be dominant, that's all he cares about. And I'm thankful that I had that part of my career where I was able to emulate and play with somebody and be taught by somebody that showed me the game. So that was the guy that I
Oh,
truly honestly watched and emulated, and I'm happy that he's doing well, and people are starting to see what type of coach he really can be because he was a great coach and a great mentor for me when I was playing.
hey, I gotta send this cut to Al Harris, man. This is awesome. This is a great story right here.
Yeah,
How
appreciate
ironic. Yeah, no problem. Because now Dallas Cowboys have to find a way to keep him. I'm sure he's gonna get a lot of interest on the coaching side and all for like maybe different teams. Oh, can you see me? Can you see me?
Yeah, I can see you. My
Oh,
fault. I'm getting my camera. My camera's
oh,
adjusted.
so it's gonna be interesting to see if Dallas is capable of keeping him as a coach there because he made a big difference, especially like you just said to the secondary. And then how ironic is it to see so you play for the Cowboys? So how ironic is it that you play with him in Philly and then now he's coaching another coach in Dallas that you play with also?
Well, I played with him in Miami,
I
so
mean,
this
sorry,
was
Miami. My bad, Miami. Yeah.
2010, and then in 2012,
Hmm.
he became our assistant defensive back coach in
Hmm.
2012. But he literally was my position coach because I was always around him. Like I remember before practice, during practice, after practice, Fridays, we're in upstairs, we're watching press releases, and he really broke the game down for me to where the stuff that I was able to use later on in my career, I was able to teach the younger guys because as years went on, you become that vet, and there's many things that you learn from younger guys. And it was funny because I was playing with Sean Smith, Vontae Davis, and we were all young. So it was always we had to learn every single week. And I was fortunate, like I said, in 2012 and 13, for him to be in the same room as me and take that experience and then teach the other guys that had come in, like Jamar Taylor, Will Davis, Don Jones. And then when I got to Philly, Jalen Watkins, Ed Reynolds were other guys that were in our room that were young kids. And then eventually it became Jalen Mills, it became Eric Rowe, Ja'Cory Shepard. Just we had a ton of young guys, and I used the experience that through my playing, and then also through Al, and also Jeff Burris was another person in our defensive back room. Todd Bowles was another person that I had as well. Mike Nolan. These are Super Bowl caliber coaches, and the guys that have won Super Bowls or been Pro Bowlers. And for me to get all that information to be able to give it to these young guys, man, it was an awesome experience as far as my NFL career is concerned. It wasn't too much about the games. Making plays is great, but having that knowledge and being able to pass it to other guys, and seeing them playing still now is something you look back and say, man, I had some part to play to making sure that these guys understood the game of NFL football, not just football in general.
Well, yeah. So, what do you say? Tell our fans, what do you say soccer helped you out with, like, the technique and the movement when you decided to play football, and obviously the speed too, running back on the obviously running. But what do you say soccer helped you out with the technique with the football with movement, especially?
Yeah, yeah, soccer helped my footwork a lot, and I don't think many people know this as well too. So I got majority of my scholarships as a football, I mean, wide receiver for
Hmm.
football. Never played defensive back in high school, maybe one or
Wow.
two snaps, but that was it. And going to Maryland, our receiver room was crowded, and I tried my hardest to get on the field. It was just hard. We had guys like, you have Vernon Davis. That's
Mhm.
that's in. You got Darius Hayward Bay. Both those guys went top 10 in the draft. So, it's hard to crack that lineup. And for me, after my going into my sophomore season, I made a decision to go to the defensive side of the ball. And Coach Kosh, who was our defensive coordinator at the time, he valued my size. I was undersized receiver, but I was a big corner. And he taught me the game. He taught me just little things that I needed to know. And my footwork kind of took over because of what I was doing in soccer. I knew where my feet were. And that's the thing about soccer is you, you look down just a glance, but you're not really staring down at the ball. Like you
Right.
just, it's hard to explain, but my footwork was over the years getting better and better. And it was easy for me to transition from receiver to DB and being light on my feet. And I think that's what helped me be productive the way I was at Maryland and also be productive in the NFL.
Hmm. We have another fan question here. One of our fans wants to know, what was it like playing in the NFC East with the Cowboys and Eagles and battling against the Washington Commanders, and then also, yeah, Washington Commanders and all,
Yeah, I, I believe, and
and
I
Giants. Yeah, Giants.
Giants. I've seen it because Maryland's right down the street, so we used to see a lot of the Redskin games, and we always saw those battles with the Giants and Commanders, or Dallas and Eagles, Eagles and Commanders, Eagles Giants, and you saw it, like you knew this was a tough division just because of the hits, the physicality, and every single year you would always see it would be a new division leader every single year, and that's how I knew it was tough. And then finally being in that division, you really saw it. There
Yeah.
wasn't a game where I could let up. It was one week it was Deshaun Jackson, Pierre Garcon. The next week it was Terrence Williams and Des Bryant.
Yep.
The week after that, Sterling Shepard, Victor Cruz, and Odell Beckham. And you had to bring it. Like it didn't matter if you were 0-7 going into a division game. That meant everything because that
Yeah.
set the tempo. You were able to show that you were really physical. No matter what was going on during the season, those division games mattered because the fans cared about it, and we also cared about it because it was bragging rights. To be able to show the physicality, to show your attitude as a team. That was the thing I enjoyed the most. Being at Philly and being able to play those teams and playing basically Hollywood receivers. That's what those guys were. So if you knew the attention was going to be on them, you knew it was going to be on you too. And that was the thing I liked, those matchups where it was going to go back and forth, especially with my times against Dez. Dez used to get me. I mean, he was getting everybody, but man, I made sure one of the things was my pride was so strong that I wanted to let Dez know that I'm gonna play man to man. I don't need help. Like I'm gonna play you, and you're gonna earn my respect because I want to play you man to man. But just those battles, even with Odell playing man to man, Pierre Garcon man to man, Deshaun man to man. I mean, those at all the games that I've ever played, those NFC East games were always the most exciting because the atmosphere really felt like a playoff game every single time it played.
Yeah, tell our fans about Deshaun Jackson real quick, and he had a great career, and now he's retired. But just talk about his hi- his speed is unbelievable. But just talk about him as a player, and this was like just being part of his career, and then playing against him, and then being on the same field as Deshaun Jackson.
Yeah, Deshaun is the fastest man ever in the league. I don't care what people say about Tyreek Hill. The things that Tyreek did is great, but the things Deshaun was doing you never saw before. A guy his size, he was every bit of 160, but if you didn't get your hands on him, he was, I mean, taking the top off of defenses. And it, I know I'm fast,
Yeah,
and the fact that I'm having problems. My hamstring's about to pull going with a guy like that caliber. It just you gain a certain level of respect of speed for a guy. Not saying you're scared of it, but you respect it because of who he is. And during these matchups, you get to know guys a little bit, and
yeah.
he's a cool dude. I don't care what the notion was of him when he left from Philly and went to Washington. I heard in the locker room when I was in Philly that he was a cool guy, and you saw it during the games too. He was cool, even though he's competitive, but at the end of the day, I respect him. I respect all guys that I played against, but Deshaun is someone I have respect for because he was a guy that changed the game of football as far as the deep ball threat. Every time he's on the field, don't care if it was his first year, I don't care if it was year 15,
Mm,
you always had to know where that guy was.
mm. We have another fan question here. One of our fans wants to know, who was the funniest teammate that you played with?
Funniest. Sean Smith. I was just talking about this earlier. I mean, it never mattered what the situation was. Sean always kept it light, and you need guys like that. Guys that when it's 3rd and 6 and it's for the game, some of the guys get so tense and locked in. But Sean's like, "Hey man, let's do this. If we do it, we do it. If we don't, we just gonna keep fighting." And he was one of those guys, and you just saw his demeanor and attitude and practice. And like I said, he was we were the young guys, but he was in year 2 when I was in my rookie year, and he was always teaching me things that he messed up on his rookie year. He was showing me what to do, and when we both became starters in 2011 and 2012, when we played together, it was always just I never not saw him without a smile on his face, which was cool. But man, just comical, funny guy, big 6'4", 230, playing corner. You don't see that, but yeah, when he needed to turn it on, he would turn it on, but,
Yeah.
in between snaps, just a funny guy.
Hmm. Yeah, so tell our fans what led to you to choose Maryland. Take us to the process when you chose Maryland. Obviously, great football program and basketball program. But talk about what led you to choose Maryland, and tell us about the experience there, like and some of your best moments, and the fans at Maryland.
Yeah, so my recruiting experience, little different than most people. I did majority of my work my junior year. I had a really great junior year. I can't remember stats. It's like over 1,000 yards, had 11 touchdowns. I was good, just put it that way. And I had 40 some offers. So I mean, I was pretty decent. And my senior year, going to the second game, I broke my leg. I
Mhm.
broke my tibia and fibula. And, a couple schools dropped off, but not many. And Maryland was the one that was always consistent. Coach Friedgen was always, didn't matter if I was on crutches in class, he was showing up
Mm,
and wanted to make sure that I was good mentally and that I was going to come to Maryland. He'd come to my parents' house twice. He had position coaches come into my house, and that meant something to me. It meant something to my family that he had that level of commitment, not just me as a football player, more so as, look, I want you to get your education. And that is my main priority. He always cared about life after football, not just
yeah.
football. And seeing it now, I mean, he obviously he just went in the Hall of Fame last year, but he was a great coach, great mentor, somebody that always pushed me, somebody always tested me, which I needed. And I don't think he gets enough credit for what he did at Maryland and the amount of success and the wins that he has amassed. And he's created a lot of great fathers out of that program, and I respect him a lot and how he's built that program at University of Maryland where people understand we have a hell in the shell is what it's called. And for us, that's exactly what it was. We were a team that if you took for granted, we were going to make you pay. And One year we beat 3 top 10 teams,
Mm,
and that was because of his demeanor and mindset and the belief that he had in us that we had when we went out into the field to let people know that, "Hey, look, we're not scared of you. We don't care if it's Boston College, who was ranked 5th in the NCAA. We don't care if it was Cal that was ranked 8th in the NCAA. We don't care if it was Rutgers at the time that was ranked 6th in the NCAA." We weren't scared of that, and, it showed, and just the memories that I had at Maryland were I was appreciative of, and I still get love when I come back there, which is great. Everybody at Maryland, and especially now Coach Locks is there.
yeah.
He wants guys to come back. He wants guys to see what he's helped build, take that even though they had those rough years, with those other coaches that were there, he's taken the identity of what Friedgen has had, and he's morphed it into where this is a place where people want to come and play college football. And I'm glad he's here. He is a great fit, and he's taken that same mindset that Coach Friedgen had. And like I said, it was some great years that I had there. It taught me how to be a man, and I'll forever be appreciative of the University of Maryland and what they've done for me.
Hmm. We have another fan question here. They want to know what your thoughts on this coaching carousel right now, with especially in college, Nick Saban gone, retired, and then they want to Bill Belichick potentially being with a different team, and Jim Harbaugh maybe potentially going back to NFL. So, one of our fans, they want to get your reaction on all the coaching carousel right now.
It's funky. You haven't seen a coach at carousel like this
Yeah.
in a while. You got top coaches like Belichick, you got Pete Carroll, and then who else was it? Uh,
Nick Saban retired, and then they got a new one from Washington. Hmm.
yeah, I mean, just seeing that these high caliber coaches, everything that's great comes to an end, and those guys had great runs. Pete Carroll, 14 years in the NFL, and the way he was able to set the identity of the Seahawks. Bill Belichick obviously needs no more introduction. He's Bill Belichick. He's a guy strategic, and I used to witness it firsthand. And that organization is the way he's built it. He gains my respect. And
Yeah.
same with Nick Saban, what he's able to do at Alabama. He recreated Alabama, and to amass that same success as Bear Bryant. I mean, that shows you what type of coaches these men are, and the production that they've been able to get out of their players year in and year out. It's respectable, but I just don't think we've seen this before. And whatever happens to Belichick, I think that's where all the other pieces are going to fall into play, because he's the hot topic now that he's out of New England, and we just have to wait and see. I think you'll see more as the playoffs progress. You'll see assistant coaches like Raheem Morris,
Yeah.
Dan. You'll start seeing those guys getting interviews or getting hired, and then this will start to morph. But I think it's really after people see about Belichick and even Jim Harbaugh. He's in the hat with that
Yeah.
as well. So it's just an interesting time because they're really high caliber coaches that what they can bring to the table and have production where they've gone. So wherever they land, I'm pretty sure they'll turn any organization or program around.
Yeah, I forgot about Mike Rabel too. He's available too. Mike Rabel.
That's Vrabel is also a great coach.
Yeah, so it's gonna be interesting, and I mean, right now there's a lot of hot speculation about Bill Belichick going to Dallas, but I don't know. I don't want to say anything yet, so that's let's just leave that.
That's
But talk about your draft experience, and tell our fans what was your draft experience like. You got drafted by Miami, round 5 pick, 145 in 2010. So talk about that moment, being with your family, friends, waiting for your name to be called, and once you got the name called from Miami, what was that feeling like?
Yeah, once again, my just like my recruiting experience, my draft experience was different. So going into my senior year, I had recognition. I'm on this Thorpe Award list. As far as draft guys, I was 7 out of 140 guys, getting drafted. I had a second round, late first round grade. So I'm thinking, man, all I need to do is just be productive my senior year, and I'm going first round. Like I knew that. And I played well the first game of the season against Cal, and I was playing well against JMU. And fourth quarter against JMU, I break my leg again, man. And same, just an inch below where I broke it in high school. And people didn't know what to expect. And it was a whole bunch of questions circulating if I was going to come back another year or I wasn't going to get drafted. My draft grade went from anywhere from 4 to undrafted. And I knew I did everything I needed to do at Maryland. And the vote of confidence that I got was from my strength conditioning coach, was Deej Galt. And he later became the strength coach at Penn State. But before that, I remember he came up to me and he said, "Nolan, you don't need to stay. You've done everything that you've done here at the University of Maryland. You set the standard. Go and do it in the NFL." And I took a risk. I bet on myself, and my draft process was more of how well can he heal? Is he the same caliber, if not better than he was before? And I took it a lot of value in that for myself to be able to prove to myself that I could come back. And luckily enough, I was able to work with guys like Chip Smith and people that I don't know. Chip worked out Champ Bailey, Brian Urlacher, Keith Brooking,
Oh wow.
just to name a little bit of guys. He's got first round picks since the '90s, and Chip really pushed me for the 2 months that I was there in Atlanta, and I was able to go out and I didn't do anything at the combine. He advised me not to, which I'm glad. He told me don't do anything at the combine. Just show up, do your interviews, let them know that you have your pro day, which was the next week. He wanted me to be in a more comfortable environment. People don't know that the draft is all stress based. They want to put you in the most stressful situation possible because that's how it is when you're playing. So you're getting up at 4 in the morning almost every day. They have you do meetings, they have you do little dumb stuff. It is really what it is. But I stayed true to what he said, stuck to the plan, and my pro day ended up running a 4.3, and that's what really helped me and get me back on draft boards. And during that draft process, I think I had five workouts and 5 visits that I went to, and I started gaining more confidence as the draft went on, but I wasn't going the first day. I knew that. Second day, probably a possibility, and the phones were ringing a little bit more as far as teams telling me, "Hey, stay on the phone, stay near your phone. We're going to call you." And that second day went by, and then here comes the last day of the draft, and I'm waiting. It's the fourth round, and the fourth round goes, and fifth round's coming, and by this time, now I'm just thinking to myself, if I go undrafted, I go undrafted. Wherever I go, I'm going to do the best I can. And I remember getting ready to take a nap because by this time, I think the fifth round had just started. And, I get a phone call, and it's a 954 area code. Pick up the phone, and the first person on the phone is Bill Parcells.
Hmm.
And Bill Parcells basically tells me, "Hey, look, you want to be a Dolphin?" I said, "Yeah, I do." He, and from there, it was a wrap. They put the phone with Jeff Ireland and man, Tony Sperano, and it was a surreal moment because it was my dad's childhood team.
Yeah.
So him being next to me and getting that phone call also, and then seeing it on the ticker on TV, it was a great moment, and to be able to enjoy that with my dad, because my mom and brother and sister, they went out to eat because the stress was just crazy. So it was just him and I in the house. But to experience that with him, it was fun. It was great, and I always appreciated that I was playing for my dad's childhood team, and I never took that for granted because he enjoyed it. It was one of the still is a highlight to for his life to this day, and that's just how my experience went. But it was one of those where I just didn't waver. There were times where I didn't know, but it was one of those where I didn't panic. I just knew that I had to put my best foot forward. I just had to stay true to who I am and just continue to work. Whenever I had a workout, I would show up. And I remember having workouts 3 days before the draft. Cincinnati Bengals wanted to work me out, and I didn't want to do it, but I knew I had to show up because first impression is everything. And yeah, it's funny how it all works out at the end of the day. Me doing the things that I needed to do, even though it was hard, is what got me into the NFL and kept me in the NFL.
Wow. And it worked out well at the end of the day, and that was amazing. And speaking of Brian Urlacher, he was on the show also. So I had
Okay.
yeah, Urlacher was on the show like 2 3 years ago when I started this business, and he's awesome. What a great player, great linebacker, and obviously Hall of Famer. And man, what a great episode there. And but I want to talk about Bill Parcells. What was it like getting the call from Bill Parcells? Actually, my mentor, Atlanta Marshall, he used to play for the Giants. He won 2 Super Bowls with the Giants, and he played with Lawrence Taylor. He lives in my neighborhood, and he's one of my mentors now. He played for Parcells with the Giants team back in the '80s, '90s, and talk about what was that like just to get the call from Bill Parcells, and what did he say to you?
Yeah, he was very blunt. Hey man, you ready to go?" I said, yeah. He was like, let's get to work. But what I also started to find out was Coach Parcells and Ralph Friedgen have been friends for a long time. Like, like I say, long time. I think they grew up together, and um, It was funny. It might have been Coach Friesian that made that call, or it might have been Coach Free. Actually, not might. It was Coach Friesian that vouched for me to get me to Miami because I'm looking at it from perspective of, well, they just drafted 2 guys the year before. They're not trying to draft another corner again. Now, I honestly thought I was going to Pittsburgh. That's where I thought I was going. And the fact that I'm hearing him on the phone was surreal because this is a guy that won Super Bowls before. He's a guy that he's a world-renowned coach. He's a guy that's very respected. So for me to get that call from him and also, Tony Sperano, late great Tony Sperano, he's a great man.
Yeah.
To be able to be coached by guys like him and also Mike Nolan, Bill Sheridan, Todd Bowles, guys that have won Super Bowls and been high caliber people, to be surrounded by that, you saw the work ethic, you saw the toughness that they instill. You just understood the mindset of those people, and it rubbed off on me, and it allowed me to grit it out basically, to understand that it doesn't matter what the situation is, as long as you put your best foot forward, that's what's going to happen is you're going to be successful. And he was always testing me. There was times, man, I was hoping I'd never run into him in the hallways in the facility, and here he comes around the corner, and he'd always just give me advice. Is other whether it be, hey man, keep it going, or you got to get a little bit better today, or just doesn't matter about the numbers, just keep being productive, concentrate on what you can control. Getting those things from a guy like that coached people that you just explained and talked about, that to me, I still remember it to this day, and I'm always lucky to say that I was able to play in the NFL, at least be on the same team as these people that have done it before.
We have another fan question for you. They want to know some of your best moments in the NFL.
Oh, hmm, there's a lot of them. Man, I just think playing in different stadiums, playing against different caliber people that you see on TV, like Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Aaron
Mhm,
Rodgers, Brett Favre, Randy Moss,
mhm,
LaDainian Tomlinson, Santonio Holmes,
mhm.
Julio Jones, like just to name a few. Just to be able to be on the field with people that I literally watched growing up and hearing how they sound in a huddle, hearing how they sound with their cadence live. It's one of those where, and you're making plays against them too. That's one of the things where it's a surreal moment that you look back and say, "Yeah, I did that." And there's only about 1% of people that can actually go back and say, "Yeah, I went toe to toe with whoever it was, and I gave up plays against whoever it was." And you can explain, man, I don't know how he did it, but I understand why he is who he is because, he made a great play on me, or he made a great throw, or he's a strong runner. Just to be able to wear the same jersey as certain guys on my team. I played with Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, Jason Taylor,
Mm.
Reggie Bush, Brandon Marshall, Des Bryant, Sean Lee, Jason Witten, Zeke, Dak. I mean, I go on and on, man. And it's just like I said, I respect the guys that I played with and played against, and to be able to share locker rooms and share the field with them and compete with guys like that, you can't take that away from me at the end of the day. And I know I earned that. It wasn't given, something that I had to fight for every single day when I was in the locker room. And that's what I really appreciate is being able to share the field with people that guys emulate and look up to.
Yeah, speaking of going off of my fan question, one of our fans. Speaking of moments, your rookie year with Miami, you already made a big impact, especially on the special teams, and they had to improve special teams that year. So talk about what kind of impact you made there, and also they put you right away on the kick returns for the Dolphins too.
Yeah, surprised me because I barely did kick return when I was in college. So, you know, uh, it was Darren Rizzi, who I think he's now in New Orleans. He's special team coach there. He put me out there. He's just like, man, look, we need something because our special teams wasn't too good the first 4 games of the season. And I remember right after the Jets game, I believe we had just lost, and we're getting ready to go to Green Bay, and it was talk of trying to stop Aaron Rodgers and slowing that team down. And I remember just the mindset of the team had changed, and we just got after it on special teams. I had a good day returning the ball. We had a good day on special teams overall, and as the season went on, we just progressively got better and better, and we ended up being the tops in the league, at least in the major categories: punt, kickoff return. we just started getting better and better. And as a testament to Darren Rizzi, even Dave Phipp, because Dave Phipp came in my second year, and it was the mindset of, look, we can do some things on the special teams to where we can help out offense and defense, and we can change position of the field to help us win games. And we didn't really care about rankings. It was just more about, let's be dominant, let's play for each other, let's go ahead and play fast, and that's what we did. And it's a testament to Darren Rizzi and Dave Phipp because, and Coach Marwin Malroof. I keep saying it's funny, but those guys pushed us to be as great as we could be. And there's no question. You just look at 2011, 2010, 11, 12, and 13. We were top five in almost all categories in special teams. And when I got to Philly, we were tops in all special teams categories because of Dave Phipp. So special teams was always something that I knew I could excel at, but it was also something that could get me on the field to play defense. Now I wasn't a high drafted guy. Like you said, I was a fifth round pick and I was more special teams. So I had to know what my role was on special teams and contribute as best I could to the team. And, eventually week 12, ended up playing against, I actually started against the Raiders, and then I ended up playing the next week against the Browns. And then finally got my first pick against the Jets in, I can't remember what week that was. It's actually the same week I got tripped. So people always remember that where I got tripped, but at the same time, I had my first pick, and it's just the work that I was able to do over the season to get to that point is what got me on the field, and then my confidence what allowed me to make the play that I needed to make that just really sparked the whole thing to get me on defense for the rest of my career.
Yeah. So talk about, did you ever think about possibly playing your whole career with the Dolphins? I know every sport is a business, but talk about how tough is it leaving the Dolphins? You signed a 2-year deal with the Philadelphia Eagles at that point, but just talk about how tough is that for you in the career, moving teams?
Yeah, it was tough, especially my final year in Miami. I balled out. I knew we had just signed Brent Grimes, so Brent was on the other side, and I knew I was going to get majority of the action. I just knew it. If Brent was on one side, he was going to lock one side of the field down, so I needed to lock the other side of the field down, and I embraced that opportunity, not because of free agency, only because I wanted to show that I belong there. And I don't remember my full stats that year, but uh, I, I just know I had to play well. If Brett was playing well, I had to play well. And at the end of the season, I thought I was going to be back. I really did. I thought we were going to continue the continuity of what we had going on. We were one game away from going to the playoffs. Unfortunately, we didn't make it, but just looking back, we knew that we had something good just with Brett, myself, Jimmy Wilson, Chris Clemens, Rashad Jones, Jamar Taylor, Will Davis. We had all the pieces we needed in the back end, plus the guys up front with Randy Starks, Paul Soliai, Cam Wake, Olivier Vernon. We had Philip Wheeler. We also had, man, it escapes my name right now, Dannell Ellerby. So we had guys, we had the pieces on the defense, and we shown that we can hold our own. And when they basically told me, and they brought in a new GM and different stuff, when they told me they weren't signing me back, I was a little bit disappointed. And then when the opportunity for Philly came, at first I didn't really want to go. No,
Mhm.
I just didn't for whatever reason. But when I got there, it was different. I mean, different from a standpoint of the locker room, like being around guys. It felt like a college atmosphere. That's one thing I know people don't like Chip and that whole era that he was there, but he really brought us together as a team. Like guys, we most of us lived in the same neighborhood. Like they're right across the street. Jason Peters' house was right across the street from mine. Right next door was Marcus Smith. Down the street was Brett Selleck. I mean Jason Kelsey. Down the street was Brandon Graham. Like again, down the street again was Darren Sproles. And after a while, you just start hanging out with guys. And we'd have dinners on Thursdays, which is something we didn't do in Miami. And you just begin to get closer to guys. It's a city of brotherly love. The fans love you. They'll hate you at the same time. They're very honest. If you're playing well, they'll let you know. If you're playing bad, they'll boo you. And that type of honesty is what we had in the locker room. We were very true to ourselves and what we needed to do. If we weren't playing well, we called each other out. That's just what it was. I never took it personal. But at the end of the day, I had my most fun in Philly. I really believe that that was the best years of my football career just because of the togetherness in the locker room. My locker buddy for 3 years was Darren Sproles, and
Wow.
to see his work ethic and just us talking, to be next to a Hall of Famer, that stuff kind of rubs off on you. And coming into the facility, Brandon Graham's one of the first guys in there, being in the cold tub, having conversations with him just about life and being out on the field, and we're just having fun. It didn't matter if it was 30 degrees outside, we're still gonna have fun. And that was one of the things that I really enjoyed with my time, after I left from Miami, even though I was a little down about it, to be able to go to Philly and play play better, elevate myself. I don't say play better, but elevate myself from what people thought of Miami because for some reason, and I don't want to blame the media, but I will speak on the media. They kind of didn't think I played well for whatever reason. I couldn't quite get it at all, but I was able to show, and I got a lot of feedback where people were saying, why weren't you playing like this in Miami? I was like, I've always been playing like this. It's just it's now on a bigger level. And the fact that you're seeing it on national television almost weekly just lets you know, I feel like it lets them know that, they should have kept me. And just hearing guys in the locker room in Miami, because I still have my house in South Florida, and I'd run into guys and they would say, man, we still watch your film. Like we're still watching stuff that you did last year. And
Mm.
guys are wondering, why didn't Nolan get signed back? And one day I ran into Chris Greer at all places in Toys R Us. I was looking for something for my
Oh,
and I remember him saying, he's like, look, man, we'll see after next year, but we want to sign you back. And I said, all right, cool. I didn't think anything of it. And then we played Miami in 2015. And my defensive back coach, Lou Anarumo at the time, he said, I don't care what we have to do. We're going to get you back. We made a mistake letting you go. And, to me, that was one of those where I knew I did everything I needed to do in Miami, and it wasn't me. That was a reason why, I didn't get signed back. It's more so upstairs made the decision. But as long as I know from my peers that I played well and they respect me enough when they saw the things that they saw on film, that's all I really care about. I never cared about what the media said about me. I never cared what fans said about me. The only thing I cared for was the respect of the guys I went against and my teammates in the locker room. That was it.
we have another fan question for you. So I know they want to know your favorite food because I know Philly has Philly cheesesteaks, but they want to know what's your favorite food in general. Like before, they want to know your favorite food either before a game or after a game.
Okay. But before a game, I like to eat healthy and I like to eat light because I'm always playing man to man. So it's a mental thing for me. So I'll eat some greens. I'll eat a half of a salmon or cod or whatever it might be from a fish standpoint. I'll have some fruit. But after the game, it's like pizza, it's steaks, it's burgers. Like I'll kind of indulge and help spoil myself a little bit because shoot, it's hard to play in this game, and especially man to man where the stakes are high every single snap. You never know what could happen as far as a play standpoint. So I like to treat myself all the days of being fit and preparing just one day after a game, especially with your family. You get to just sit down and enjoy a meal together. That's what I do. And whatever I have a craving for after the game, but during the game, before the game, actually, I like to I like to eat healthy just from a mental standpoint to keep me right to know that I'm doing everything possible for the game to make sure I'm in the best position possible mentally and physically to produce.
Yeah, so speaking of Philly, just talk about the fans and sometimes the fans can be crazy on opposing teams. But for you, what was it like playing in front of those fans, being on their side and winning them over, and just playing in Lincoln Financial Field, crazy atmosphere. But what was it like for you just to be part of that?
I loved it. I mean, I absolutely loved it because they're going to tell you like it is. They're going to boo you if you're playing bad. They're going to cheer you on if you're playing well. And I got that experience the first season. I was in Philly first game. We're playing the Jaguars and we got down 17-0 at halftime. And I mean, the fans are just laying into us, booing us. And I'll never forget this. Jason Peters said, watch in the second half, they're going to be cheering us on. And
Mm.
sure enough, came back and won 34-17 and everybody's cheering. And that's just how it is. They love their team. They love all their sports teams. They're diehard. My son's a diehard Eagles fan, and he feels it when they lose, and he feels it when they win, and that's just how it is. But that gives you an extra incentive to go out there and give it your all, knowing that there's blue collar workers that live in Philly that they save up money just to take their kids to the game or their grandparents or themselves to the game you don't want to just go out there and go through the motions. You actually want to play your best. And there was times where I'm banged up and I'm hurting, especially in 2016, where I'm coming off ankle surgery, and I want to make sure I'm playing every single game, not for myself. It was more so because of the fans. I wanted to make sure that their mindset was the same mindset I had, was to go out, didn't matter how bad I was hurting. I was going to go out and compete no matter what to help win a game, because it meant that much to the city and it meant that much to me as well. And, like I said, knowing that you give it your all, you never have any regrets when you're playing the game of football or even in life. And that's just my mentality, and understanding that. I think looking back now, you kind of get your flowers, because people do tell you, hey, man, we loved you when you were in Philly. We respected you. That, to me, that's the ultimate level of respect, even though you're not looking for it. That's the ultimate level of respect that you get for those fans, because that's who you're doing it for. Doing it for the love of the game, because you never know what memory out on the field can be the one that entices somebody, some kid, some adult that might be going through something, to give them hope about just life in general, because you never know what they're going through. And one of the things that interests me when I was in Philly was every Thursday, if we had an away game, I would always take an Uber downtown, go and get some food by myself
Mm.
at a restaurant. And, you know, they would always talk about Eagles. It was always Eagles football. It didn't matter who the Uber driver was.
Mm.
And they never really paid attention to who they're picking up. So I would sit back and just listen. And they would talk smack about me. They talk smack about the defense, offense, chip. It didn't matter who it was. I just sit back there and take it all in, and just understand and appreciate how much they really love Philly football. And that makes you play your heart out, man. And for me to be able to be there for 3 years, and help build that organization and give it what I could give it. I appreciate my time there. I appreciate Howie. I appreciate Mr. Lurie. I appreciate everybody in that building that helped me become better than what I thought I could be.
We have another fan question for you. They want to know who was oh, they want to know who was the toughest outside of okay. They want to know who was the toughest quarterback to play against.
Toughest quarterback, Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
Aaron, Aaron all day. Like, there was a ball that he threw. I gotta find the picture. I actually have the picture on my phone because it's incredible. He threw a fade ball. It was Monday night in 2016. He threw a fade ball that was just, it was on the money. I remember I quick jammed Devontae Adams, and I remember I'm running with it, and I'm getting ready to turn my head to locate where the ball is. And most of the time, you're able to see the ball in the air and then track it when it's coming back down. Well, Aaron threw it kind of on a rope to where it was able to land right in the breadbasket.
Oh wow.
You'll see my hand, and I'm turning my head, and the ball is going right through my hands to Devontae Adams' hands. And I mean, you can't put it much better than that. That's when I had gained respect for Aaron Rodgers over the years, but to actually play against him and see how cerebral he is, he's not concentrated on the play call. He's more concentrated on what we're doing on defense, how we're subbing in and out, who we're bringing in and out, as far as can he get the snap off to get an extra few yards, and, where are the matchups, movements, and those receivers being on the same page, like Jordy Nelson at the
Yeah.
time. You also had Devontae Adams, and you had Randall Cobb. You weren't stopping that guy, man, during the regular season. It was one of those where he's always had my respect, but he definitely gained a whole another level of respect when I played against him. And I played against countless other guys. I got respect for Drew Brees. I played against him multiple times. Ben Roethlisberger, I played against him multiple times. Cam Newton, I respect him as well. Played against him multiple times. Even Ryan Fitzpatrick, I played against him. Carson Palmer, I played against him. But as far as a guy that you just sit back and think to yourself, yeah, he did that on me. So you can't even feel bad. Whoever the DB is, you can't even feel bad, because that's just who he is. He's one of the all-time greats. And like I said, being able to share a field with him and compete against that guy, no matter how bad he carved up our defense, it was great to play against him.
Yeah, and hopefully he can come back strong this year for the Jets. Obviously, unfortunately, to see what happened after 4 plays, he got injured, but hopefully, come back here strong and hopefully he can have a, he says he's going to be ready for the season, but just hopefully they got to obviously be fix the offensive line. That's the main thing, especially for him. But
Yeah.
but I want to ask you after Philly, you ended your career with Dallas. Talk about that going to another division rival, I mean division team in Dallas, and take us to that process. What was it like? How did Dallas become interested, and how did you become interested in Dallas?
Yeah. So in 2015, as I told you, I broke my leg. So after the season, I was under contract. Well, I was going into another contract year. So I was, I thought Philly was going to sign me back, but I didn't know to what extent. And then Dallas, they came calling. So I remember taking my visit to Dallas, and it just didn't, for some reason didn't feel right. And I went back to Philly for another year, which I wanted to do. I wanted to stay back in Philly. It was just unfortunate that I missed the last 5 games of the season because I broke my ankle. So fast forwarding, I played all of 2016, and they came back again. And but this time it was more of I understood the situation. They weren't signing back Brandon Carr or Morris Claiborne for whatever reason. I don't know why, but they told me that they were going to draft guys and that they wanted me to mentor them. And Philly didn't sign me back. They didn't have any interest to sign me back. So it was between Pittsburgh and Dallas, and I wanted to go to Dallas because I saw. I obviously you play against them 6 times, so you see what it's like and see how dynamic they were and how dominant they are. And I mean, getting to play with guys that you played against, like Dez, I've seen him so many times. I'd much rather be on the other side of it and play with him. That whole old line that they had, Zeke and Dak, those guys coming off impressive rookie seasons, and them just winning the division. I wanted to go to the playoffs. I had never been to the playoffs, so I felt like that was a team that I could go to, and they were going to do it. And it was just a lot of funky stuff going on that year, and it was disconnect. Whether it was a whole Zeke thing going on, suspending 1 week, off another week. It was just hard. We had Tyron Smith had an injury. We had young guys in the back end. So we're trying to figure it out. Coaches not on the same page. It was just off that year, and I didn't like it because when you spend more time fighting each other than actually preparing for your opponent, it started showing. And we weren't playing with confidence. We weren't playing with swagger, and it showed. We went 6-10 that year, and ultimately, I against Denver, I got 2 concussions that game. And the first time I got a concussion, it wasn't even heavy, but Sean Lee kind of nicked me in my chin and felt a little dazed. And luckily enough, we had a weather delay. It was in Denver, so I had about an hour to shake it off and came back in the game. And I remember once again Demarius Thomas catching the slant and getting ready to tackle him, and I get hit in the back of my head by my safety, just friendly fire. Both of them were friendly fire, but it was just different, man. I couldn't really concentrate on what I needed to do. Normally, when you have concussions, the first thing you try to remember is where you are, who you are, what you need to do, what your job is, and I couldn't remember most of that. Like I remember my name, I knew where I was, but as far as like plays, I couldn't remember a lot of it. And it was unfortunate because I missed 3 games, and then I tried like hell to come back. Like I really did. It was the mental part that just kept hindering me. And as the weeks were going on, I kind of just said, you know what, no, this ain't safe. Like this isn't the normal type of concussions that I've dealt with before, and I had 8 of them before. So to be able to overcome them and come back, a week later, 2 weeks later, I wasn't able to do that this time. And basically, it came to the point where Coach Garrett sat me down in the room, and he said, "We got to part ways." He appreciates everything that I did for him, and I have no ill will towards the whole organization at all. If anything, I saw what it looked like. Dallas, the Cowboys are one of the top organizations as far as popularity and how much they're worth in the entire world. You can go to China and everybody knows the Cowboys. And for me to see it that year, especially when Jerry Jones was going into the Hall of Fame, I gained an appreciation for what he did and how he's brought that organization to where they are now. I don't care if people hate the Cowboys or not. I got respect for Jerry Jones because of what he's been able to do for that program and that organization, the players that they consistently put in and out. So to be there, I'm appreciative that I got time to be in that facility, got time to be around guys that I competed against. And when you're seeing it from the outside in, you don't really, I'm not saying you don't respect guys, but you learn to hate them a little bit because you have to. But then when you're in the locker room with them, you start seeing they're just like the guys. Like when going against Dez every day, you gain appreciation for his work ethic. When you see guys like Jason Witten, you gain appreciation for his wisdom. When you see guys like Zeke, you see, how lighthearted he is and how comical he is. You see guys like Dak, and you see how he's gaining. He's going to be a leader one day. Like you see these things, and you have appreciation for him. And like I said, my time there, even though it was brief, I appreciated it. And however I can talk well about the organization, I always will, just because it gave me a chance to continue my career.
All right. So before we go any further, fans, everybody knows about her. Her name is Kia Lyons. She's one of my coworkers on this show. She's a big Eagles fan, and
I know.
she was so
Hey,
excited when I told her that Nolan Carroll was going to be on the show. So Kia has some questions for you too. So I'm going to let her run the show here.
okay,
Thank you so much, Nolan. Such a great answer. I loved jumping in when you were giving that description, because the thing about me is I think that sports brings people together. So no matter what's so interesting to me is the team players. A lot of them have played together, whether it's in high school or college, and then they get traded. So when they keep that respect and that admiration for the game, and that respect, then I just feel like it's an awesome build and time. I feel like when it gets too competitive, that's when it can get a little dicey,
yeah.
especially between the Eagles and the Cowboys. So, but tell me, and forgive me if I'm just jumping in on the call here. What is one of your greatest sacrifices and gains in this industry in your career?
I think the biggest sacrifice I had was time away from my family. But at the same time, they understood what I needed to do and how I needed to do it. There were times where we would have trips planned and I would cut it short because I wanted to get back to working at my craft. I spent so much time thinking about my team, thinking about what I needed to do, because I never wanted to be the weak link. I never wanted it to be,
Yeah.
and I've had a couple games where I felt like this, where it was on me. And I never wanted to put myself in that situation week in and week out. I always wanted to give my best, whether I was feeling bad, whether I was hurting. I just always wanted to show up and show to myself that I was able to do it, and know that the guy that is calling the plays, whether it's Carlos Dansby, Sean Lee, D'Amico Ryans, those guys know that I know my job and I'm going to execute it. And that was one of the things that guys, I have a buddy of mine where we worked out together for 7 years, and I was working out 3 times a day with him. And it got to the point where he's just like, man, you don't have to work out this much. I said, yes, I do, because it means that much to me to know that I need to be as prepared as I need to be mentally and physically, so that when those crucial situations come, my teammate knows that I can make a play, or any of us in the back end are going to make a play. But that was one of the things that I sacrificed the most, was time for my family. But I believe I'm getting it back. Just now, just being home, I moved back to Jacksonville, and we're together. My brother and sister live here as well too. They bought houses. I got my house, and it's been fun just to get back that time. It's one of those things where I made the time, but I made that time through the sacrifice that I did years ago to be able to be in this position now to where we can hang out.
That's awesome. And I'm sure you're a total inspiration to them. That commitment is key. Tell us, how do you lock in and have that hyper focus when you want to be with your family, or when you're where you're at and where you need to be at a pro level? How do you lock in?
You have to tell yourself what's your why. Like, you have to constantly ask yourself, what's your why? Why are you doing this? Most people don't even know what their why is. They kind of get into something to please somebody else, or think somebody else is going to like it, or get approval from somebody else. I never cared from approval from anybody. I play football because I wanted to play it, and I kept going because I wanted to continue to prove to myself that this is what I need to do. This is what I want to do. And there's times, and it's funny because I just started reading. Well, actually, I finished it. It's a book by Tim Grover called Winning, and he talks about your darker side. And I, sure enough, I've been there so many times, and it's where you lock in. Like, nothing else really matters. It's only about, what is your why? What do you want to get accomplished? How well do you want to? How much do you want to be great? Like, what level of sacrifices are you willing to make to know that at the end of the day, you're not questioning if you gave it your all? And that was me. I knew that I wanted to play football. I knew that I wanted to be great at it. I didn't know it'd get me to this point that I'm in my life now, but every single day, that was my intention, was to just be great at figuring out a newer level. Like, every single day I was waking up, I was always finding something new that I could do because football was new to me. I was a
Yeah.
soccer player before, so these things that guys knew when they were 5, 6 years old playing Pop Warner, I'm just now figuring out. So every day was just a new adventure that I always took on, and I loved it because if I learned something new, I was going to apply it immediately. I wasn't going to wait around for it. And I knew if I was going to fail, I was going to fail fast, learn it, and then get better. And I was always going to compete against whoever I was going against. And that was the thing that helped me out the most, was tapping into that darker side per se. Kobe calls it his Mamba mentality. Well, I haven't found a name for mine, but that was that was something that I just tapped into that helped me get through the broken legs, helped me get through the politics of the NFL, helped me get through the free agency stuff, just locking in and only controlling what I could control and then
Yeah.
letting everything else play out.
I love that. Nathan, we got to read that book.
Yeah,
I
I know.
love it when people
Yeah.
refer books to us.
Yeah, we
It's
definitely have to read that book.
winning.
Me
Winning
and
is
Kia,
key.
yeah, me and her, we live by the mama mentality also. So yeah, so you see,
Yeah,
Kobe was one
so
of my
Yeah, there we
I
go.
just his book is upstairs. I usually have it right here, and I got the Eagles hat there. But that's amazing advice, and I really truly believe. I mean, it's natural. We have a dark side and a light side, and we have that balance. What would your, and forgive me if you already shared it. Have you shared a story of what you a story that you want to share to the youth, or advice that you recommend to the youth?
I deal with this with my guys. My brother and I have our own junior college. My thing is, don't feel entitled to anything. Like, you have to work at everything that you're doing, and it sounds cliche, but you'd be surprised at how many people feel like they're entitled to getting something after not doing any work. Everybody feels like, I need to sit around the couch. I don't need to do anything, and I'm supposed to gain the ultimate prize. Well, what you end up doing is starting to get frustrated, resenting other people, and you start blaming others. And in this life, you got to work for everything that you get. And if you don't work for it, you got to look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself what you need to do to get better. And I was never looking at what somebody else had. I was never looking at what the unfair advantage is, because I've had a ton of unfair advantages. But the difference between me and a lot of other people is, when I look at these unfair advantages per se, I look at, how can I make it a fair advantage? What things can I do? What things can I control to make myself be in that place to where I look back and tell myself, thank God I was able to do those things, those hard things that allowed me to create the opportunities that I have today. And it's tough. It doesn't happen overnight. Those things take time, and you really never truly know where the finish line is. You just have to keep going, understanding where the destination is. And that's where you learn to understand who you are as a person, and you learn to understand who you're influencing and who's watching you, and how you need to continue to be the right person so that you can influence somebody else to push through adversities, to be motivated to be better for themselves. And for me, that's the thing, is entitlement. And we all fight it every single day. We all have those thoughts like, man, I wish, I deserve this or I deserve that. But you have to ask yourself, did you really put in the work to get it? And if you ask yourself that question, if the answer is no, you got to work harder. If it's yes, still work harder at the end of the day, because you never know when your opportunity is going to come, to where all the things that you've done, all the skills that you've learned, all the training that you've done, all the books that you read, all the experience that you gained is going to come down to one moment. And if you're not ready for that moment, that's on you. And that's the thing that I constantly am telling my guys. That's what I'm constantly speaking about at speaking engagements that I have, is understand you're not entitled to anything. At the end of the day, you have to go and earn everything.
That's great advice. It seems like it's very in alignment with Coach Prime. It was either this morning or yesterday, talked about sacrificing. You always have to sacrifice something to get what you want.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on when, as we've been watching Coach Prime publicly coach the team, the Colorado Buffs now? What are your thoughts on that? On his leadership, which we both love.
It's his mindset. The mindset is him. Like, everybody has to get on his same page. He's confident. He loves what he does, and he's going to tell you exactly what he's going to do, and he's going to do it, whether you like it or not. And that team is now starting to have that same mindset. And people might think it's cocky. I don't.
I love.
I just believe that it's a part of his work ethic. He speaks volumes. Everybody wants to be primetime at the end of the day. Even when he was a player, everybody wanted to be him. Everybody's wearing the headband on the neck, the bandana. Everybody's wearing doing that when he was playing. And now he's a coach. His thing is we here. And you see all these other coaches saying the same thing. We here. They're all emulating him. And the mindset, the demeanor that he's bringing to Colorado, I think they'll make noise. He knows he needed certain pieces in play to be successful, and he took his beatings last year, and he admitted that. But at the end of the day, he said, "Look, you got to catch him right now because there's not going to be another opportunity to catch him again." So, I think what he's doing in Colorado and the whole dynamic of college football, he's really changed it to where he understands the business. And if you understand the business of football, then you're able to play the real game of life. And no, I'm here for it. I love everything that he's doing. I love how he's playing to the world of college football now. And if you hate it, so what? And he's doing it his way, and it's working. And if you're gonna hate it, you're gonna keep watching at the end of the day, and you're gonna see his success. And all you can do is clap because 20 years from now, we'll still be talking about the stuff that he was able to do well, not even last year, before that, when he was at Jackson State, and
Right.
to be able to set the standard of what it means to be a college coach and how you need to relate to these kids and give them the right values to understand, hey, look, this game is not for long, and you need to make sure that you maximize your opportunities while you're in there.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's great, great viewpoint. And when he was on poolside, we were all still rooting for him. And just when he went to the colleges, I was there for it. I couldn't wait. And I think it's awesome. Um, Tell us what's one of your greatest moments of success reflected on all your hard work.
My greatest success, and you see the picture behind me, is my son. Like, that is my greatest success because now he's getting to the point where he is seeing dad from a different perspective of my dad played in the NFL. My son didn't know it when he was younger. He's just like, yeah, dad's a football player. But now him seeing it and hearing stories from other people that appreciate that, oh yeah, your dad played in the league, and him being an Eagles fan and me being playing with the Eagles, he's
Wow.
now putting two and two together, and I still got highlights on YouTube. I didn't realize I had it, but my son watches that, and being able to see him emulate what I'm doing and he wants to play defensive back. You don't hear young kids wanting to play defensive
So
back.
does my son, PS.
There you go. Just me being able to pass that knowledge on to him and knowing that he wants to be great at such a young age. I mean,
Yeah.
that is that will forever be my greatest accomplishment will be him. And I'm excited to see what he's going to do. And he's already far ahead than I am. Like I said, mentality, his work ethic. I mean,
That's
I
awesome.
can't he's always saying, "Dad, I'm gonna be better than you." I said, "You're damn right," because he needs to understand that I don't want to put the pressure on him to be like dad. I want you to be better than me so that people are talking about you. They're not talking about what dad used to do. And you see
Yeah.
it with other players that dads are in the league. I look at Joey Porter Jr., and his pops. Nobody really talks about his dad anymore. They
Yeah.
talk about how great he's playing. And that's what I want eventually for my son, maybe 10, 12 years down the road. They're talking about him as an all pro bowler. And I'm just gonna sit back and clap because at the end of the day, you want your kids to be better than you. You want to provide a better life for them and show them a better way so that then when they have kids, they're doing the same thing. And that's what I really appreciate.
That
Listen,
is the great legacy. I have three, so I can really appreciate that. And we are grateful for your Eagles work. Thank you so much.
hey,
Appreciate you.
speaking
Um,
of coaching, I want to get to the junior college that you run with your brother and talk about that. Tell our fans about that. And also, before this in that's we moved this interview because of the recruiting. So talk about the recruiting process when it comes to these players and all.
Yeah,
yeah,
how cool that you work with your brother. That's just awesome in itself.
I know that
Is it awesome?
it is. Hold on, I'm gonna put my computer don't die on you guys.
Okay.
Sorry. Here we go. Yeah. So it's cool working with my brother. And for him, my brother's always been a guy that's behind the scenes that likes to make sure things are working. And it's funny, back in 2020, towards the end of 2020, he came to me with a solution to a problem. And he saw that many guys were losing out on scholarship opportunities and because of COVID, whether kids were coming back to school, the guys transferring. A lot of the high school kids were missing out on opportunities to get scholarships. And just looking back at my collegiate career, well, my high school career, I had coaches that taught me the right thing, and then I was able to go to camps and get that opportunity to where I was able to get scholarships. Well, it doesn't work like that anymore. And film is current film is the best indicator of how a player is going to be for a program. And just looking at, my brother said it straight up. He said, your experience in the NFL and in college, putting those together, you'll be able to help a lot of kids get that same experience, but also to gain that leverage to where they can show their highlights on Instagram and Twitter, and other college coaches can see that these guys are coached the right way, but then they're also great in school. And my brother put the challenge to me. He said, basically, I want to create a college program that competes, hopefully, eventually, one day in the NCAA ranks, and we can say that we're the ones that created it. And if you look back, there hasn't been any collegiate players that have come back and created their own college, and we're the first to do it. So my
Wow.
brother got us accredited
That's
by,
awesome.
yeah, he got us accredited by the state of Florida, meaning we're track
Yeah.
accredited. So the kids, when they take their college courses, they're able to transfer that over to any major university in the United States, and that's key because you can't play football if you're not eligible. But on top of that, just being able to teach them from the highest level that you can teach them from. And I'm not talking just about X's and O's. I'm talking about mindset. I'm talking about preparation. I'm talking about just being accountable to your teammates at the highest level to know that it's not just about you, it's about the team. And the team success is what's going to help you be successful. And we're always preaching that. It's always motivation over current situations is what our acronym is. We're Mocs. We're the Moccasins, Jacksonville Moccasins. And I
That's
let those
cool.
know that, look, it doesn't matter what the situation is. We're all put in bad situations. It's really up to you to change what your dynamic is in life to make you successful, because you're the one that's setting the example for somebody else. There's always going to be somebody that's watching and evaluating you, how you are as a football player and how you are as a man. And that's what we teach here at JA. And we're in the fourth year of the program, 2022. Just in the second year of the program, we won the championship in the IJCAA, which is a football league that's here in Florida. And I don't think people expected that, and I think it caught a lot of people off guard. And we're getting kids to other universities. We just had a safety that's signing to Albany State. Actually, he signed last week. And
Oh,
to get text messages,
Congrats.
thank you. We've had 9 guys that in the short amount of time have gone on from us and have gone to either Division II or Division I program.
mm,
So my greatest pleasure is when guys are texting me and telling me, Coach, I really grew in these 2 years that you showed me how to be a football player, how to be a student, how to be a man. And that's what this program is about. We want to be able to teach the correct way how to play football, teach the correct way how to be a college student, and just knowing that we're fighting against a dynamic where these kids aren't being taught well, and they think they're entitled to so much when they don't really work for it. So our thing is, you work for it, you earn it. And when you earn it, you appreciate it. When you appreciate it, you're able to value it a lot more than somebody that's just giving it to you. And we're still
Right.
going. We're in our fourth year of the program, and we got a better schedule this year. We're getting better players because people are starting to recognize what we're doing and how we're doing it. We're doing it the right way. We're not skipping steps with this, and it's because I've seen it at the highest level. And my brother, to be able to give me this opportunity to grow this football program and grow it the way that I've seen it at the highest level and bringing it to this area of Jacksonville. I mean, it's been fun. I appreciate it every single day because I know that it starts and ends with me. My mindset and my demeanor, how I wake up every single day, is how the team is going to move. And I can't take a day off, and I can't have a bad mental day. Like, I always have to be sharp. And I think that's great because that's how I was when I played. I always had to be on my toes. I always had to find another way to get better. And that's what I'm doing with this program. And the coaches that are involved as well, too, they're seeing the same thing and they're pushing me as well. And, like I said, we're getting the results. We're getting the kids in, we're showing them what to do, and then we're getting them out so that they can go somewhere else and know that they can contribute right away because they understand the business. They understand that, it's politics, but at the end of the day, all the stuff that we taught them, if they do it by the book, they're going to be successful because we've seen it before. We've had our own pitfalls. We've learned the lessons, and now we're giving it to them so they can be successful. And it doesn't matter if you're a 5-star kid or a kid that has no stars. You come to us, we're going to show you what it means to be a Division I athlete. And then when you get into the door where there's 15, 16 other guys in your position, you're not going to be intimidated by it because you understand what you need to do. You're not going to try and hop from one school to another like you see so many guys do. We teach our guys not to run from competition, but embrace competition. And if you fail, learn from your failure and apply it to get better and just keep going because that's what life is. It's all a test and it's all learning. So at the end of the day, like I said, it's been a fun experience and I'm having fun with it. I really truly enjoy it. Like I was just on a recruiting visit earlier. That's why I had to push this interview back because the same thing I'm telling you, the same thing I told another kid. This is about an opportunity we're presenting to you because we know that if you come with us and you do it by the book, you're going to get that opportunity. You're going to create it for yourself, and that's going to create confidence in you because it's all results driven. And at the end of the day, that's my biggest pleasure is to understand that I'm helping grooming the younger generation so that they can contribute later on in life.
Well, that's
That's
awesome.
awesome. Shout out to you, your brother, the team. Take two of my sons, sign them up. Let's go. We're ready
That's
to run through a wall.
That's amazing. Making
Wait, is there somewhere we can follow along? Do you guys have social platforms where you showcase some of your work with the team?
Oh yeah, we do. So it's JAA Athletics on across all board Twitter, Instagram. We have a website online as well, jaathletics.org. We're hoping this year, and we want to change the dynamic. We want to start broadcasting our games live, not just broadcast them, but the way you see NFL games is the way we want to be able to show the same way with our games. We want to be able to show the kids. We want to showcase the whole program, not just me.
Yeah.
It's just about the coach. It's about the player,
Yeah.
their upbringing. It's about our coaches and their mindset and demeanor and what they're bringing to the table. So, really trying to elevate. Not trying. We have been, and this year is year where we really want to separate ourselves from these fly by night post grad programs that only care about the money for themselves. We really truly care
Yeah.
about the kids. We've funded this program ourselves. We don't really the money's not the thing about it for us. It's about establishing a program that's going to be here for long after we're gone and being able to be a place where kids continually know that they have an opportunity to come somewhere that is going to give them another opportunity to continue their academic career and athletic career as well.
Wow.
Amen. 5-star broadcasting. They need it now for those 5-star players that are coming out of there. Let's go. Somebody get them 5-star broadcasting. That's awesome. I'd like to watch live games. I know.
Hey, we got to make that happen. We got to come travel to Jacksonville and see some of your.
Well, we got to get it broadcast. We got to help.
We'll get
we'll be your broadcast team, Nolan.
Send some cameras, Nathan.
But before we let you go, tell our fans about today's games. The Bills. Give us your predictions: Bills, Steelers, and then the Eagles Buccaneers game.
Yeah, Bills Steelers. I think that's going to be a little bit more challenging than people think. I know the Bills have been on a hot streak, but I still think they'll gut it out. I believe it's going to be 24-10. Even though Steelers have surprised a lot of people, I just don't see it happening. I think the Bills are just primed to take off. Nobody really wanted to see the Bills towards the end of the season, and teams that get a hot streak, you got to watch out for them, i.e. Green Bay. And you saw what happened.
That was crazy.
Yeah, exactly. So I got them 24-10. The next game, Philly and Tampa. I feel like Philly is gonna get after it. I just the demeanor of Fletch, the demeanor of Brandon Graham. I hit up Brandon earlier this week, and his response to me was like, "Yeah, we're gonna get it. We're not worried about the outside noise. Is what we control inside." So I just believe they're gonna get after it. I think they're tired of.
I like that answer.
They were
BG
up.
does sound on fire, right?
Yes.
He got us our Super Bowl. Like, let's talk about the sack too. So
and I just think
appreciate him.
it's playoff time. They know, they understand what's at stake, and I think they just relaxed a little bit, and it got away from them. They reminded themselves of who they are this week in practice, and you'll see it. I believe 34-17. I just think they're going to get after them. They're going to get after Baker Mayfield, and that defense is. I mean, Slay is back, so big play Slay.
Big play Slay.
I respect those guys on the defense. I'm a big fan of every single one of them on defense, and don't count out Jalen and his mindset and what he's going to bring to the table. Even though they don't have AJ Brown, they still rely on that running game. They still got the great O-line that's up front. So you run the ball, you impose your will, and you got Devontae Smith out there. You got Zacchaeus, you got Dallas. I mean, they still have weapons at the end of the day.
DeAndre, it's just his birthday too. Nathan and I got to meet DeAndre before he started playing.
There we go. So at the end of the day, you can't count out Philly. The heart of any Philly fan, anybody from Philadelphia, you don't count it out at the end of the day. I learned that when I was in Philly. So I believe they're gonna go ahead and handle business and quiet the crowd a little bit, and they'll keep doing what Philly does, and that's proving the haters wrong.
Do you see the
I love
tush
that.
push? Do you see the tush push or the Philly special? I'm just
Or if it's 4th and 2, you've seen the tush push. That's what it is.
But yeah, so where can our fans find you on social media? On Twitter, Instagram, and also please put out the team's handle also again for your junior college.
Well, yeah, it's J Athletics on Instagram, on Twitter is where we are mainly because we do recruiting through there. My handle's Carroll City, CarrollCity. Haven't been able to change it. Is when I had it back when I was in Miami, it was a play on Carroll City because that's where we played. So I just used Carroll City. So
It's awesome.
yeah, it's cool name. You can get it on Instagram, you can get it on Twitter, where you find me because that's where I am mostly. But I got my podcast that I do. I have videos that I put out just to motivate people because we live in a weird time right now, and just seeing my experience, I want to be able to give back through what I say, through my shows, through the school, through my businesses, being able to just give knowledge because you never know who's trying to find that information to make themselves better. And everybody's getting fed so much information nowadays. I just want stuff to be true and want it to be genuine. And my life's on the internet, so you can go back from 2004 to 2024. It's all on there, and I want people to understand where I've been and where I'm going. And it's not just overnight. It's through discipline, dedication, and just being diligent every single day, and always harping on consistency. The more consistent you are, the better you are to get to your prize. And that's what I want people to understand is you got to fight for your own stuff. You got to fight for the belief in yourself. And the more that you do that, you always get the reward. You'll never look back and regret. You always look back and be pleased with your life and understand that the things that you did is the reason why you got the prize. And that's what I'm about. That's what I want people to be about, and help other people do the same.
Wow,
That's great.
that's amazing. And Nolan, Carroll, I just want to say thank you for joining the show. Welcome to the family. It's truly an honor to learn about more about your story, and thank you for doing this. And the fans enjoyed it. Thank you to our fans for asking good questions also on my app. And Kia, my co-host here, she's amazing. You guys
Thank you for letting me join in.
connect. Nolan, you got to connect with her too because she does a lot of stuff with Eagles players, and she has she lives in Philly area. She does a lot of stuff with her platform. It's called High Performance Platform, and she has a bunch of stuff she does with Philly. So you got to connect.
Unity inclusion is a key too.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm so grateful because this is perfect for the youth, and we appreciate your work, your business. We're putting blessings over your business, over your work, and sharing because, everybody seemed to fine tune and really get into who they are in COVID, or from what we've seen in our comings and goings. But I think it's really important for kids because especially when they focus on themselves, sometimes they stay in, they work out, they just go to their teams, and I think, or to school. I just think it's important that everybody's on social media, especially the youth. And I think it's wonderful to have empowering messages out there. So I'm saying keep it up because it really matters.
I appreciate that. I will. Thank you.
Thank you.
And well, I'm gonna send this to Al Harris. So I got you.
Send it to Al. I haven't talked to Al since I think 2000.
Hey, I'm working on getting Al Harris on the show. He told me after the season, so hopefully I'm not gonna ask him now because since we lost yesterday, I want to give him some time. So yeah, I'll send him your cut to him too. The clip.
All right.
Yeah.
I appreciate Al a lot.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I said, just being able to play with him, I appreciate that. Out of my whole NFL career, just being able to share a locker room with him, I definitely appreciate that.
Yeah. All right. Thank you though. This was awesome.
Thank you.